All right, we're back. We're going to learn how to animate something in Adobe After Effects. So from our last little bit, we have a project area here where we're bringing footage, and we're going to create our layers and have our composition. Here is going to be our composition view and our footage view, if you remember. But composition is the one we're worried about right now. And down here we have, which basically our sequence or timeline. So what I'm going to do is start again like I did before. I'm going to hit new composition. And again, different ways that you can do it. Go up to composition here, hit new composition. You can click on the little button down here that's new composition. There's all sorts of different ways that you can create a composition. So I'll just use this one. It's right there. So just like before, HDTV, 1080, square pixels, 2997. All of this is really important because you want to conform. So if you've shot your film in 24 frames per second, you want to conform your graphics and motion graphics to that frame rate as well. So that frame rate of your project that you're editing in, and that might be the size of the project as well. So if it is UHD, you don't want to be working in a 1080 project here. You want to work in a 4K project. So just be very, very aware that you're doing this, because if you go and do like your whole project accidentally in, say in 720, and then you realize, oh my God, this is supposed to be for a 4K. Well, that thing has to now be, expanded, and it's pixels, right? It's going to start pixelating. It's not going to look good. So you want to make sure that you're always starting in the resolution in which you're going to finish in. So here it's going to be 1080, 30 frames per second. Or if I was shooting, say, a little film at 24, I'll want to make sure it's 24. So for this one, we'll just choose 24 just for fun. So 24 frames per second. Here, the duration's important. So the duration, I'm going to ask you to change because 30 seconds is excessively long. So let's just make one that's 5 seconds. I'll let 5 seconds long. There you go. 5 seconds long, 24 frames per second, 1920 by 1080. We're ready to go. Hit OK. And now the composition is there, but nothing's in it. So just like before, I'm going to go up to Layer, New. I'm going to create a solid. I'll change the color of the solid to whatever I want. And sometimes your background is not going to be a solid. It's going to be a graphic. So if you want to bring in a graphic or anything, if I want to bring in the graphic from, say, my desktop, I can File and, just right-click, Import, or you can go up to File, Import a file. And if I go to my pictures folder, the night the Tricky ate the toad. My dog ate a toad. And now this footage is here. If I double click on it, it opens up as footage. Remember? Not in the composition. It's not a part of this composition yet. I have to drag it in, just like you do in your editing program. I would have to drag it in, and you can see it doesn't conform to the size, and I'd have to resize it, do all that kind of stuff. But this is how you basically work with footage. I'm going to avoid that for just this what we're doing right now, but just to show you that it's there, you can do that. And here I have it named. This one thing I forgot to do is name my comp. And if you've done that, name your stuff, by the way. Just name it. Name your layers if you can. All you have to do is hit your return key or enter key on your keyboard. And you can call it, I'll just call it animation. Now you have to hit the return key, because if you're like on a Mac and stuff and you just start clicking on it hoping it's gonna just allow you to change it, it won't let you. You have to hit the return key. And that includes everything. I could change the name of this. I could change the name of the solid here. Just call it green. And there we go. And you'll see that it's changed it down here as well. All right, so let's animate. What does that mean? Well, let's get something to animate. What I'm going to do is select a new layer. I'm going to create a new layer this time. So I'm going to create a new layer, and I'm going to create a shape layer. Shape layer here. And then you can see here, nothing has happened. It's created a shape layer, but nothing's on the shape layer yet. So if I go up here, you can see there are shapes. So if I wanted to, I can now go and choose different shapes. So say the star tool, that's easy enough. And if I click and I drag, I now have a shape. Pay attention though, here, this is where the anchor point is. So if I rotate this by going down here and then opening it up, by the way, you'll get very fast at this as you go along. It's going to rotate from that point on, which is fine. You might want to rotate it from there, but sometimes you don't. So the anchor point, and the anchor point tool, very important, is up here. And if you hover over this stuff, you can find it, anchor point tool. And I can do it from the middle. I'm going to do mine right from the edge here, just for fun. And I'll show you. So now let's animate this. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to go and select my pointer tool again. And there are shortcut keys for all this that you can learn. I believe the pointer tool is V. So the more you do those, the better it's going to be. And this is, now you can just move it around. But you see me doing this. Anything I do here, I can animate now. So if I wanted this to go, you know, hop, hop, hop through the frame, I can do that. And what I want to do is down here, I'm going to bring this up, is I want to animate various things like position, rotation, possibly scale. So let's just do a really quick one. We'll do a position rotation. Now if I move this, it's not doing anything. Nothing is actually happening. If I go and click along here and say, well, this is play it back, or hit your space bar like you do in your edit, nothing's happening. What's going on? This is not working. It's not working. And so I get that all the time. It's not working because we haven't done anything yet to tell it to do something. So what we want to do is we want to, and this is very important, pay very close attention here again, to create a keyframe. And the keyframe, I'm going to go back to my beginning here. You can see, you can just drag on the blue line here, that guy, drag it across. Starting on my first frame, I am going to start a keyframe position. You say, perfect. So I want to move over here now. And then you go, I hit the playback, and nothing's happened. Why is nothing happening? This is where everyone gets frustrated when they first learning After Effects. Because I've only told the computer that I want this to be the first of 2 keyframes. It can be first of 3 or 5 or 100 keyframes, but you need 2 for it to actually do anything. After that, and we'll look at it in a sec, I can add more keyframes. So here I'm going to say, okay, this keyframe, it's not doing anything. Well, let's make it do something. I'm going to take this now. I'm gone to the end of my composition, 5 seconds down the line, and I'm going to drag this, and lo and behold, you see that it's created a line. And what does that line represent? Well, that represents the path that it's working on. And now, oh, look it's working. And it only works because I have a keyframe here and a keyframe here. And if I don't have keyframes, it doesn't work. So now if I hit the space bar, it's animating. And I'll go back to the beginning, start over again. And you say, Mark, that's really slow. How do I make that go faster? What do I type in to make it go faster? Is there some sort of speed thing here? And you say, no, there's no speed thing. To make it go faster, I have to change the timing of the keyframes. So right now it's moving from across this entire distance in 5 seconds. But if I said, okay, well, let's do it in, you'll see here, 12 frames. You see over here is 12. And I just take this keyframe and I grab it and I drag it over. It's going to do the exact same thing that it just did, but in 12 frames. You go, oh, that's much faster. But nothing's happening afterwards. That's okay. So, say that's too fast and I want it to be, say, 2 seconds mark. I can actually just drag the keyframe over to the 2 second mark. Around here, there we are, we're at 2 seconds. And now when I play it back, of course, nothing's happening once it's played through. Now when I get to this keyframe, you can see that it's off of the screen. And you have to think of this as like you're on a big tabletop and you're sitting here and everything around here is desk. So it's like taking something off of the animation surface and putting it on the side beside it on the desk. So this is like having a big desk. So if I want to not make it go off screen, I can just move this over here. And by the way, use your mouse wheel. You can go forward, in and out. Maybe you did Command plus and minus, or Control plus and minus in Windows. You can zoom in on things. And like Photoshop, if you hold down the spacebar while you're in the composition window, you can get the little hand comes up. You could go up here and grab the hand and change it and then go back and forth. But better if you just hold the space bar down and you can change it. So that way if I zoom in, I can hold my space bar down. And if I wanted to refine something here, I could do that. So I'm going to go out. And I'm going to go back in. And if I want to reset this, there's all sorts of little things down here you'll see, and we're going to get comfortable with these later on. All these things, and you're like, oh, I'm getting overwhelmed. Don't be overwhelmed. It's just here, it's at 100% view. So we just set it, just fit it in here. So let's get the fit view. And there we go. We're back to where we were. So now my animation goes from here to here. Halfway through this, say I want to go down to the bottom of the screen. I can say, okay, well, I'm just going to pull this down. Once I have keyframes, it'll start automatically making keyframes for me. And you'll see that my line here is changed. Now, this is the path that it's working on. And it's created for me a brand new keyframe. Just because I made a change between these two keyframes, it's now doing that change for me. And say I get here and I actually do want it to do something else. If I go to the end of the project now and then I create another keyframe by basically just moving this over here, and we'll leave it on just a little bit. It's going to come down, it's going to go over, and then it's going to go across. And it created that last keyframe for me because I've created the first keyframe. If you don't create the first keyframe, it won't create other keyframes for you. That's important for you to know. Because then you'll be like, you'll move it and you'll be like, nothing is happening. I don't understand why anything's not happening. And the reason is because you didn't start a keyframe. If you don't start the keyframe, which is down here, so let's start a rotation keyframe. So rotation down here, nothing is happening on rotation. If I just change the rotation and I hit play, it's not going to do anything. It's not going to change it over time. It's just I was on that keyframe and I've not set a keyframe. So if I keep changing my rotation over and over again here, go like here, I want it to be like that. When it goes up here, I'm going to go like this. And then play it back and you go, oh, it's done. Why is it not doing anything? It's not doing a thing. I don't understand why it's doing that. And then you say, well, you didn't start a keyframe. You have to start the keyframe. So here is a keyframe for rotation. And I'm going to want it to rotate, say, into this one. Let's rotate it to the clockwise. So I'm just going to say, let's rotate it to here. So now when I play this back, you'll see that it created a keyframe here. And there it goes. Doink. So now it's saying, okay, I'm rotating from 118 degrees to then over here to minus 7 degrees. So 118 to minus 7. If I wanted that to be upright, of course, I could just type in 0. Then it's perfectly. And now it's going to keep on doing what it was doing. But now it's holding basically this keyframe here of rotation. It's not rotating anymore after this. But if I change that keyframe, I can have it rotate some more. So I've gone to the end. As you can see here, I'm going to go right to the end of my composition. And just to throw something at you, if you hit end on your keyboard or home on your keyboard, it'll go from the home to the end, home to the end. Now on the rotation, if you look here on rotation, I can rotate it several times. So I can do degrees. I can say do 90 degrees or 100 degrees, but then it says 0 times. Oh, so if I say, okay, well, let's type in 10 times, what's going to happen? So it should do 10 rotations from this keyframe to this keyframe. And let's play it back. So I'll hit spacebar. Those of you who are interested, you can also hit the 0 on your keypad if you have a keypad keyboard. Same thing, you can do a thing. Whoa, and there it goes. So the one thing I want you to understand about After Effects is it's all keyframe management. It has everything to do with these guys. So if I delete this keyframe now, instead of going from 0 or from 118 to 0, it's going to go from 0. So I'm going to delete that keyframe. Now it's going to go from 0 at the beginning, so down here, or sorry, minus 118, and then it's going to go to this keyframe, and it's going to go to 0 degrees 10 times. So now it's just going to go whizzing around the entire time. If this seems like, oh no, this is a lot to take in, that's okay. This is our first go at After Effects and understanding sort of what keyframes are, because you'll see when we go forward next time, the keyframes we'll do more of this kind of stuff, and you'll see, oh, this is really important. Without understanding keyframes, After Effects is useless to you. It's good for layout. You can do Photoshop-like stuff, but it's always the changing of things over time. And you'll see everything in After Effects is keyframeable. So I'm going to bring in the night that Tricky ate the toad. So if I open up the properties here, there are shortcuts, by the way. So there's scale. If I can scale this up, just click and drag on that, or I can change it to 120. Of course, it's covering, and this is the important thing you understand about layer view. Everything is done in layers, so one thing on top of another. Think of it like transparencies on an overhead projector. The bottom one on top of one, on top of one, on top of one. Now I've put a solid one over top of everything, and I can't see anything underneath it. You can see it's working, but I can't see anything. So if I take this layer and I drag it down on top of the green layer, then it becomes the base layer. And if I take this and I put it underneath the green layer, it disappears. So that's how layers work. And of course, this shape layer has transparency. Everything is red within the star. Outside of the star is see-through. So everything is keyframeable. Going back to that concept. If I were to do something, and I don't want you to delve into this, but if you do notice, there are tons of effects and things. So if I wanted to create an effect, just even a color effect on this. So if I go to color and I say, okay, what I want to do is I want to animate hue and saturation. So I'm going to go and animate hue and saturation. So now it's added it to, and this is another thing here, and effects has shown up underneath my layer. There's an effects. And if I double click on effects, it shows up here where the project used to be. That's where both of these live. There's a project view and an effects view. So now if I wanted to change the hue of something, there's a wheel here. I can change a hue of something. And if I can do this, I can animate this. Meaning that if I set a keyframe up here on the color range, I'm at the beginning, and you can see that I have a keyframe here now, and I go to the end, and if I make a change here, so that right now it's 4 times 320, so let's do 10 times. well, let's do 8 times, so it's not 2. Might give you a seizure. You can see now it's going to animate through that hue wheel. So those of you, say for example, wanted to create a feeling of like a lightning storm or a thunderstorm in these clouds, that's one of the ways you could do it. Of course, not with colored wheels, but with brightness and contrast and things like that. You could make it look like the sky is lighting up from whatever, an alien invasion. Maybe this is an alien invasion, who knows. And now if I put this underneath, say, the star will play there. Which is horrible. This looks terrible, but that's okay. You get the point, hopefully. So everything can be changed through time using keyframes. In After Effects, literally, it's almost every single thing can be changed through time. And there you go. So your job is to animate something. Simple as that. Understand the project and just play with the animation. Next time we'll learn how to render it out, and we'll take it one step further from here. But this is just a basic. You can start here. This is the basic, beginning blocks, and truly is a piece of software that is your imagination tends to be the limit on this thing, because there's 100 ways of doing everything, and there's 100 ways to do things different. So it's a really cool piece of software that way, and it's the reason why it's so well loved and used by everybody. So before we give anybody a seizure, that is my animation. It's crappy, but it gives you the point. So signing off, and if you have any questions, by all means.